Hi, well, this is just a short video to explain why in the new NIV, Exodus chapter 15 verse 2 reads, "The Lord is my strength and my defence, he has become my salvation," whereas the old NIV read, "The Lord is my strength and my song, he has become my salvation." And I'm going to explain why I think song is right, and so why I felt it was okay to make a bit of a point of it in today's little talk. So this is something of a kind of a technical footnote for those who are interested in these things. It's not a sermon or anything, it's not going to change your life, just a kind of a technical note. So what we call the Old Testament is written in the most part in ancient Hebrew. This is true of the book of Exodus, and the chapter that we're looking at today, chapter 15, is possibly the oldest bit ever to have been written down. It's a song. It's poetry. And most ancient Hebrew words are based on what gets called a triliteral root, which is to say you have three letters, three consonants, which convey the root sense of the word. And from that root, you can create nouns and verbs and other exotic things that we need to put in sentences. And ancient Hebrew shares this feature with other ancient Near Eastern languages and indeed also with some modern ones. So we're talking about Exodus chapter 15 and verse 2 and about a particular word and whether it should be translated song or whether it should be translated defence. So the triliteral root in question here is this. You read Hebrew from right to left. So it is Zayin Mem Resh, or as we have in our alphabet, we might say ZMR. So what is this root? What does it mean? Well, indisputably, it very commonly appears in the Hebrew Bible carrying a meaning to do with songs and singing. So if you want a really clear example, try Psalm 7, verse 17. "I will sing to the name of Yahweh Elyon, the Lord Most High." No question at all that that is what it means there in a verbal form. I will sing. Or if you want to see it doing service as a noun, check out Job chapter 35 verse 10. "But no one says, 'Where is God my maker, who gives songs in the night?'" And there are tons of examples like this. No question that Zayin Mem Resh very often carries the sense of songs and singing. Okay, but the complication is that what can happen is that you can have the same triliteral formation deriving from more than one root, from more than one source. And let me illustrate this for you with an example in English. So if I say the word fan, what are you thinking of? I really wish I could hear you. Maybe you're thinking of something like this, a thing that you wave about to make the air move. And if you are, then the word that you're thinking of comes to us from Latin. But you might be thinking of something like this, someone who is quite keen on something, as in, I'm a fan of Marmite or the Beatles or something. And if you're thinking of that kind of fan, well, the word you're thinking of comes to us from the US. It's a shortened form of fanatic, and it's believed to have originated in the context of baseball. They are actually two different words entirely, two different roots, different sources, different origins, but you use exactly the same letters to communicate those two words. To use the technical description, they are homographs. Well then, back to Zayin Mem Resh and Exodus chapter 15 verse 2. Well, people have looked at this and they've said, hold on, why on earth would you describe God as your strength and your song? Those two things have absolutely nothing to do with each other. And more to the point, this is a poem, and in ancient Hebrew poems, what we expect is parallelism. It's all over the place, this kind of stuff. If you're going to say X and Y, you sort of expect X and Y to be related somehow. So take Psalm 28 verse 7 as an example, which says, "The Lord is my strength and my shield." Now, I mean, you can see a connection between strength and shield, can't you? Especially if you're thinking about a battle. But what on earth is the connection between strength and song, which is what we appear to have in Exodus chapter 15, verse 2? It has struck scholars as odd, and it set them off on a quest for a different route using these letters, Zayin, Mem, Resh. A different route which has got something more to do with strength. So that instead of translating "the Lord is my strength and my song," we could then translate "the Lord is my strength and my," well, fill in the gap, but something which is more to do with strength than the idea of a song. And to be completely fair, there is another jolly good reason for wanting to do this. Because if you look at the ancient translations of this text into other languages, you don't find a consistent approach. So if you look in the Vulgate, which is the ancient translation into Latin, you find "Fortitudo mea et laus mea Dominus." My strength and my song is the Lord. But if you look in the Septuagint, which is the ancient translation into Greek, you find this. In English, something like "He was to be a helper and protector for salvation." Protector. So no song in there, not at all. So when you look at those two ancient translations, it's a kind of one-all score between the idea of song and the idea of defence. So it is a very finely balanced debate. No one is an idiot for translating "the Lord is my strength and my song," and no one is an idiot for translating "the Lord is my strength and my defence." What it comes down to in the end is, are there really grounds for positing a root for the Hebrew Zayin, Mem, Resh, meaning something like defence? And if we wanted to go into the arguments which have been advanced in favour of that, we'd have to delve into the very esoteric reaches of South Arabian and Amorite personal names and Ugaritic words of uncertain meaning. It doesn't carry a great deal of persuasive power. I've read the journal articles and I haven't come away feeling convinced. And although the NIV Translation Committee has decided to put "the Lord is my defence" in here and to relegate "the Lord is my song" to a footnote, I think we also ought to consider the verdict of some of the recent and serious commentators on the book of Exodus. So this is John Durham, writing in 1987. "The evidence for posing a root meaning protection or fortress is not convincing," he said. This is Victor Hamilton, writing in 2011. "The evidence for ZMR with the meaning protection/strength in biblical Hebrew is slim." And this is Desmond Alexander, writing in 2017. "Since Zimra is associated elsewhere with music, there is no compelling reason to reject this understanding in verse 2a, that is, of Exodus 15. And I would simply add that Exodus 15 is a song, and it's a song about Yahweh for the first 5 verses. And then from verse 6, it becomes a song to Yahweh. You know, if you're a person of faith, you can't sing about him for too long before you're singing to him. In its actual context, it makes perfect sense to say, "Yahweh is my strength and my song." And this is why I have felt free to make a point of it in the talk that I filled in the crematorium car park. Well, God bless you, Hebrew students.